Hitting national headlines today throughout the country was President Mubarak stepping down from his presidency in Egypt.
I think you have to take into account how the events in Tunisia prior prompted this. There are many ways to try to put this into context and compare. If I were going to compare, it would not be with the so much with the Islamic Revolution in Iran, which today is the 32nd anniversary of that, because there involved much more violence in terms of the way that the protesters were treated, and that precipitated, I think, the outcome where Islamic fundamentalists were able to take power. Part of the picture here in Egypt is that food was an issue, and so it's not coming out of the same motivation of Islamic fundamentalism being at the core of this and pushing it. And of late, there were more professionals involved in the protests, so I would expect this to be a much more orderly transition to what's going to happen in the future. A big factor for the rest of the region, though, is what does it mean to have someone like Mubarak in power for 30 years topple from power by popular protest. And I think the leadership in Saudi Arabia has got to be most concerned.
Liberal arts student Stephen Byers says he has been following the protests in Egypt since they began.
Spent 2 years in the Middle East with the military, so I'm always interested to find out what's going on there. I started following it because I realized it's going to affect us here at home. It's going to affect the way oil prices and things like that. So I started to really take notice. I'm cautiously optimistic that a democracy is starting to take place there in the Middle East. The country has kind of pushed democracy since 2001 over there in Afghanistan and Iraq. So I'm hoping that this is another legitimate democracy that's going to take hold and take place. But I do think it is a tightrope for the United States, because we have pushed democracy, but sometimes we're not knowing who is going to take over and who's going to be in those positions. It could be dicey as far as who's now making the decisions that will affect us.
This has been Holly Boname at JCC discussing President Mubarak stepping down from his presidency for myabc50.com.